Today, I would like to show you how the future of work for Power BI developers might look like. I'm sure most of you are familiar with LLMs already, ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, and probably using it on a daily basis in your work. I'm sure you were thinking on multiple occasions, can I connect it directly to Power BI Desktop? Can I automate some things instead of constantly copy-pasting back and forth between windows? Say no more. Today I will show you a glimpse of what will be possible quite soon with MCP support. MCPs, if you don't know yet, are, in simple words, plugins. Plugins for LLMs to connect to different systems. Now currently, not many of them support those plugins. However, Claude Desktop already does. And I wrote my own MCP, which connects to Power BI Desktop and allows LLM to explore the model. Not just explore, but also create measures, run them, verify results, and also run performance traces. So today, I would like to show you how Claude can handle typical developer workflows. I prepared a few scenarios, typical scenarios that developers work with, and I will run them through my MCP. And let's see how LLMs can handle it today. I have my Power BI Desktop instance running already. It has Contoso database loaded in with a few millions of rows. And I have my Claude Desktop running already with my MCP plugged in. In the MCP, I've exposed few methods that Claude can use to work with Power BI Desktop directly. Let's say explore tables, create measures, run performance traces, and so on. As you can see here, it's already discovered that I have this model running, and as the next step, I would like to connect to it. So let's do that. Now, the first scenario would be, I would like to calculate some analytics related to sales. In specifics, I would like to make few measures, total sales and year-over-year growth percentage. Now, let's see how Claude will explore the model, create those measures, run them, and return results. Let me paste the prompt for that. And let's see how it handles this multi-step workflow. As you can see here, it's asking for permission to create measures table. Great, it actually follows best practices to store all measures in separate table. Great, so it completed those 4 steps that we requested. Let's switch to Power BI Desktop and see what happened there. Okay, it prompts me to refresh the model because there were changes, so let's do that. And once it does, we can see that it created measures table, and there are 2 measures that I requested. Total sales, which uses SUMX, and proper columns, and year-over-year sales. Now, what I would like to do is to actually make metrics to see whether it's properly calculated total sales across years, as well as year-over-year sales, to compare what it displays there over what is calculated within Power BI Desktop, and make sure that measures that it executed were ran correctly. I have the table here, so let's compare the numbers that Claude provided versus what Power BI Desktop calculated. 207, 296, and here 126 million. Great, that matches. Now let's check year-over-year sales growth. And here we have 43, 63, 18. 43, 63, 18 matches as well. Let's see what it has proposed with regards to performance. It proposed to make calculated column instead of running SUMX to pre-calculate results and then to run simple sum. This is actually legit advice and it's possible to do, but this is quite an easy case. Now, besides that, what's important to mention? It actually ran real performance trace, the one that you get in DAX Studio. So it can accurately measure how much time was spent using formula engine or storage engine. And based on that, provide recommendations. First scenario so far I consider a success. Let's move on to the next scenario. As the next task, let's ask it to calculate top 10 customers by total sales and do Pareto Analysis. Let's see how it does. It has finished. Let's see how it did. It provided us with top 10. So far, those numbers look more or less legit. It tried to run Pareto Analysis. For some reason, it provided top 20 as the result, without explaining why, and it correctly identified that no, 20% does not apply here. With regards to total sales in Contoso, the distribution is quite flat. So yes, it correctly identified that 20% of customers do not generate 80% of revenue here. Let's move on to the next one. I would like it to calculate gross margin by category. Let's see how it does. Okay, it has crunched the numbers. However, none of the categories were flagged. Still, it has ran analysis for the lowest grossing category. It's games and toys, as you can see here. So far, so good. Now let's try another scenario, performance optimization. In the next scenario, I would like to check performance tracing. So first, it will run less efficient query, then more efficient query. I would like it to validate that both provide identical results and then explain why one is faster than the other. So let's see how it does. Okay, it ran two DAX queries, one using CROSSJOIN, another using SUMMARIZECOLUMNS, and it concluded that SUMMARIZECOLUMNS is faster. It used less storage engine queries. It used the same amount of formula engine percentage. Data returned by both DAX queries is the same, identical, which is great, and it properly concluded that SUMMARIZECOLUMNS is better. Let's move on to the next one. In the next one, I would like to compute rolling 3 months averages and also provide some analytical analysis. Okay, it has completed the task. Let's see what it did. Now, it created two new measures, rolling 3 months sales and rolling 3 months averages. So far, those look correct. Interestingly, for analytics part, it ran analysis inside Claude Desktop using JavaScript, as you can see here. What I asked it to do is to detect inflection points where the slope changes for rolling averages and summarize results. And it provided analytics that in March there was major decline. If we look at total sales, this is actually true. And decline continued to April and then started to pick up back in May. Exactly what it provided us with. Let's move on to the next scenario. This one also makes of analytics. I would like to see how it can work with the data within Power BI Desktop. So it will work with subcategories, and I would like it to find categories where there was 2-year consequent decline in sales. Now, okay, it has completed the task. However, what it did is slight cheating. Cheating because once again, it ran analysis within Claude Desktop. What I wanted it to do instead is to actually use DAX for this. So let's tune prompt a bit to make sure that it uses DAX. And actually, results are quite different from what it first shown. So I would like to validate whether it's true, first one or the second one. And judging by this, second time around, when it ran DAX against the model, it was actually correct. The first time around, when it tried to cheat with JavaScript, those results were incorrect. Let's proceed to last one. And this one will be slightly easier. I would like it to document the model, something developers do very often. And besides that, also update descriptions for the measures based on certain template. It has completed the task. This one was a bit longer and multi-step, albeit much easier because it had to review the model, document it, which LLMs are good at, and also update few measures. I'm sure most of the developers will agree that making documentation isn't the favorite task of ours. And it did great here. Went through all model, documented all of the tables, columns, measures, and so on and so on. And it also updated all of the measures with descriptions. So if I switch to Power BI Desktop, I can see that all of them now have description based on the template that I provided. Few lessons here. Don't blindly trust LLM. They can hallucinate. However, by giving it access to the model and ability to run DAX, you minimize the amount of those hallucinations. However, you still have to keep an eye on the output and make sure that it actually uses that capability, instead of running calculations via JavaScript like it did in a few cases. Now, this was just a glimpse into the future, how Power BI development will be changing in the coming years. It's not yet here. However, with MCP support and companies introducing LLMs into their work, Power BI development will change. And I'm here for it. See you in the next one.